please help me. This is very urgent. Please help me. And staring at each other like our mouths open wide, like going to the America is not an option. Hello, today I would like to share about the story of how I came to America from North Korea. It was around time when I had been living in China for about 2 years after escaping from North Korea. And as you may know, when we risk our lives to escape from North Korea and make it to China, the Chinese government captures us and sends us back to North Korea. Once back in North Korea, we endure unimaginable humiliation and have our human rights violated, and living in conditions worse than animals in prison. Additionally, in China, there were rewards offered for reporting us, so we are often betrayed and captured. Because of this, as soon as people in China noticed us as North Korean, they would report us immediately, leading to our arrest. Moreover, the reason the Chinese people report us and get us imprisoned is because the Chinese government is so close relationship with the North Korean government, and they help them to cooperate. Not only that, if people will find out we were North Korean, especially in the case of women, we were subject to human trafficking. We were sold in small price. All bachelors who have been unable to marry for a long time, or to disabled men living in rural areas. Some are even sold to some bars and karaoke establishments for money to make profits from us. When it comes to this situation, we can't even protest, we can't even say anything, because if we don't comply, you know what's gonna happen. They just either remove us silently or send us back to North Korea. Just do whatever they want with us. So living in China meant living in fear day by day, always terrified we might be discovered. So it was a situation we had to live there as soon as possible at any cost. At the time, while living in China, I was constantly terrified of being captured or sold by bad people. I was moving from place to place, unable to relax even for a moment, living in a state of constant tension and fear. Fortunately, during that time, I had the opportunity to learn how to use computer. In North Korea, I had never used computer. I had never seen it. But when I arrived to China, I see it everywhere and everyone using it. So I asked a friend to teach me, and that's how I first learned about internet. After I learned about internet, the first thing I searched for online was defection. I came across a website related to North Korean defectors, and without thinking, I posted a message pleading for help. I later find out that this was something I shouldn't have done. There were many North Korean spies in China who monitor these websites, and they can trace IP address to locate and capture detectors like me. But at the time, I didn't know any of this, and I just posted my plea. Many comments were left on my post and warning me to delete it quickly because they already know those are North Korean spies, and everybody says I could be in. Among the comments, there is one person mentioned that his girlfriend, also North Korean defector living in China, he was trying to bring her to South Korea through an organization. And he shared the organization's website and email address with me and told me to reach out to them. He also urged me to delete it right away after I reading the comment. So following his advice, I quickly deleted the comment and sent an email to the address he provided, explaining my background and situation in detail. He told me that the person the other end was pastor at a church in South Korea. Honestly, this could have been a very dangerous move too. There was no guarantee that the person who left the comment was telling the truth, or it could have been a spy, and I didn't know who they were, but I decided to trust them and take a leap of faith. In the email, I introduced myself, explaining that I was only in my early 20s and that I didn't want to waste my life in fear here forever. And I wrote that I desperately wanted to go to South Korea to find freedom and live like just a normal human being. After I sent the email, I didn't receive any response for several days. And I sent another one, pleading, please help me. This is very urgent. Please help me. And still, there was no response. I was so disappointed. At that point, I was utterly hopeless. And I decided to send one final email as a last-ditch effort. Surprisingly, at this time, I got the reply. The email said that they wanted to meet me via video call if I can access to computer. And I said, yes, I can. And they are just anxiously waiting the appointed time. The next day they called me and we just chat on the video call, and the pastor confirmed the details I wrote in email, and then he handed the conversation to another person. And this person started interrogating me seriously. This person was also North Korean defector, but he already made it to South Korea and living in happy life, and now working with him alongside. He asked me serious questions about where in North Korea are you from? What area did you live in? Can you name certain places? Which school did you attend? These were very specific questions that only North Koreans will be able to answer. This interrogation lasted about 20 minutes, and honestly, I feel so bad because I was in such a desperate situation, and here was this person who already made it to Korea, living in happy life, and just interrogate me like criminal. I felt even more miserable. But later, I found out that this pastor had already helped so many North Korean defectors from China to South Korea. Because of this, North Korean government had sent numerous spies to try to capture the pastor or sabotage his efforts. There had been close calls where the pastor nearly fell for traps set by these people, and that's why they had to be extremely serious about this. Of course, since I was and had nothing to hide, I was able to answer all the questions without any hesitation. Afterward, the person told the pastor that I did seem to be a genuine defector and that I was telling the truth. The pastor then told me that it was too dangerous for me to stay there and instructed me to go to the train station and get on the train to move to another location. So as soon as I got off the phone call from him, I boarded the train to the new location that pastor had arranged me. When I arrived at a safe place, there was the girlfriend living there, the one who gave me the pastor's information. From that point on, we were living together and waited together for the pastor to arrange our escape. Meanwhile, the pastor was working on getting South Korean passport for us so that we could pretend to be South Korean and board a flight to South Korea. But even that was extremely risky because we were using passport that was not real, and if we got caught, we would be arrested at the airport and sent back to North Korea. So it was completely in the hands of fate. Creating this passport wasn't easy either, so the process took a very long time. While we waited endlessly, my friend and I often cried out of frustration and shared our deepest thoughts, and we became good friends, like sisters. Then one night, out of blue, the pastor called us and he asked us what we thought about the idea of going to America. And we were like, what? We were speechless. We don't know anything about America. We never thought about it. We were just counting down days until we could go to South Korea. The pastor told us that there is a possibility that we could go to America. And he said we didn't have that much time to think about it. Just gave us that overnight to think about it and tell him the next day. We were both in shock and staring at each other like our mouths open wide, like this is all of a sudden, and just the idea of going to America is a dream. We spent the entire night to figuring out what to do, like going to America, like going to South Korea, what to do. We were torn and couldn't sleep at all. Growing up in North Korea, we only hatred toward America. From a young age, we were brainwashed to believe that Americans were evil, cruel people. They oppressed others. The capitalist system where people fought tormented innocent people. And even as children, we sang songs about fighting them and just kicking them, They drawing pictures of, just removing Americans. But after living in China for 2 years, my views started to change. We saw how much Chinese people admire America, and they looked up people who studied in the United States with envy. And they love to watch American movies. I watched some movies with friends when I was in there, and I was astonished. The society seemed very advanced with incredible technology, and the people very well-mannered. Gradually, my perception of America began to shift. And also, even in China, people who were less privileged couldn't easily go to America, no matter how much they wanted to. This really made me reconsider everything I had been taught. Since we didn't know anything about America, we were overwhelmed and decided to call my friend's boyfriend, the same one. He was in South Korea and we spoke to him over the phone with the speaker on. And he tried so hard to convince us not to go. He goes, "You won't survive a day there. Do you know how much the rent is per month? It's $800. And food cost is 300, like 400 a month. How do you plan on paying that? You can't even speak English and you can't get a job." And we're like, huh? I mean, that amount compared to Chinese currency, it seemed like an enormous sum. And in China, we couldn't even dream of earning that kind of money. And hearing that rent alone was that expensive, plus all the other costs, it really scared us. I mean, he also said that we would end up homeless on the streets and no one will care about us. He was absolutely adamant that we shouldn't go. And he tried to persuade both his girlfriend and me with everything he could. After hearing that, we got so scared and we decided to give up. And we told the pastor about it. And he goes, okay, but he seems a little disappointed, but he didn't push the matter any further.